I've been a voice actor for almost 30 years, and this is what I'm noticing in Euphoria's vocal performances and how the male gaze co-opts a story created by a woman.
Well, the lighting is nice. His room looks clean.
I'm a case party. And it's not like I'm a drag and want everyone to be sober around me.
It was the first day of school after the new year.
Nothing. Sorry, this is Jules. Overwhelming and debilitating.
So Rue has a low, compressed, slightly graveled voice that has a husky texture that tells us that this is someone who probably hasn't been sleeping much. But what I really love is what Zendaya does with her tempo, because it functions as a sobriety meter for Rue. So when the character is experiencing a manic state, she accelerates the pace and softens her enunciation. And when she's in crisis or during withdrawal, she slows it to this very painful crawl.
Oh, okay. Like it's sweet little angel, this innocent, sweet little angel who doesn't know what the they're doing. You know what the they're doing!
You want me to be honest?
It's funny, that's what
Yeah.
And the reason this stands out to me so much is because she's maintaining two totally separate versions of the same voice. So when Rue is narrating, she sounds warmer and she's more observational, even gentle at times. But episode Rue sounds more guarded and compressed with harder onsets. She has narrower vowels and her pauses are structural as opposed to reflective. And the space between these two voices is where we can find the tragedy of the character, because we're seeing the person she could be commenting on the person who she is.
I'm Jules. On Saturday after the carnival. We're good. Come on. It's gonna be amazing. But my dad wants to have like a capital F, capital D family dinner. Are you talking to your mama about me?
No. Shut up.
Now, Jules does the opposite of Rue. Her voice is in an upper register, she's breathy, she's very emotionally immediate, which means that there's not much armor in her delivery. In other words, Rue compresses and Jules expresses, and that contrast makes every scene between them feel like the two are these at-odds nervous systems trying to sync up together. We can hear Jules holding on to feelings in her vowels, and I never noticed that her voice cracks were really cleaned up. Her onsets are also soft, and they're breath forward in a way that makes the character feel like she's totally open, in a way that suggests that she's making a conscious choice to perform charismatic authenticity instead of performative toughness. But what's really noticeable to me is how the actor who plays Jules, Hunter Schafer, who is also a transgender woman, co-wrote the Jules-centric special episode because she sounds so distinctly different in that episode. There's more stillness and interiority, and there's less performance of feeling, and we feel like we're actually seeing the real Jules.
You want to tell me what the problem is? Are you in a relationship? Is it a threat? That's it. Okay, whether I like her or not is irrelevant. Let me take you out tonight.
Why?
Hi, Tyler. The kitchen knives, they're here. Same with the baseball bat from your room.
So Nate is interesting because he doesn't really do anything flashy, but it's that minimalism that makes the character feel threatening. He has this deep chest resonance. He's usually fairly volume controlled, his phrasing stays clipped and basic, and he always says less than what he means. Those moments when his voice drops to an even quieter level are, to me, more frightening than when his voice hardens, because Quiet Nate is planning something. Think of it as a witless and darker version of what Miranda Priestley does in The Devil Wears Prada. Nate also gets something that almost none of the girls and women on this show get, which is a backstory that explains and contextualizes his behavior towards others, and it almost begs the audience to understand and have compassion for why he is the way he is. Likewise, Cal gets an entire episode devoted to his tragic backstory as a closeted gay man that asks us to, again, have understanding and compassion for a man who has been a monster to the women in his life. The girls and women have backstories that ask us to sympathize, but the boys and men have ones that ask us to empathize.
Wait, what? It's actually triggering.
Yeah. Back together with Nate.
Out of sight, out of mind. What are you talking about? Nate, are you kidding me? You're lying.
Yeah, you did this to multiple girlfriends? Well, don't do this to me.
I know, I'm sorry.
Why? That is so depressing.
Now, Maddie is the exception that proves every rule in this show. She has a flat and dry delivery with impeccable comedic timing. She has a very confident, chest-placed resonance and an unhurried pace that she pairs with an inflection that conveys her disdain, as opposed to using volume. So what I mean is that she doesn't have to get loud in order to destroy you. She'll just choose a single syllable at the right pitch to accomplish that. Maddie has very committed onsets with full vowels, and her register is something that I would call unapologetic. Like, this is someone who decided very early on in life that she would not be anything but who she is, and is the only girl in the show who seems to have full ownership and habitation of her voice.
No, you're being cute. Have you gone through his phone? I've never not gone through someone's phone. Imagine being 40 and looking back at this like, wow. Yeah, I'm definitely at like 25% peakness. High school, because it's like the last time in their life that they could dream. I don't know, they usually just come to you.
Then there's Cassie. Cassie has a voice that's mid to upper register with what many would describe as a classically pretty tone. She's breath forward and emotionally porous, which means that there's not much distance between what she feels and what comes out. Her pitch rises when she's distressed, which is constantly, and that means her voice is always slightly elevated and always at the edge of breaking. Her volume is completely calibrated to whoever she's performing for, so she's quieter around Nate, she's louder around Maddie, and she's completely lost around herself. Her onsets are also soft in a way that sounds undefended. Her vowels are open and unguarded, and she eases into her speech, which is a performance technical marker of someone who has learned not to startle anyone. And all of this makes Cassie's voice sound like it doesn't really belong to her because it's always reaching out for whoever might be there to receive it. And while most of the actors in this series are great, there's some behind-the-scenes information about this show that adds just an extra layer to all of this for me. So the story goes that before there was a single frame filmed, a photographer and director named Petra Collins had spent years building the visual language for Euphoria. That hazy, dreamlike, intimate depiction of girlhood that is the entire aesthetic of the show is all based on Petra Collins' work. And this guy, Sam Levinson, gets in touch with her and tells her that he wrote a show based on her photos, and he asks her to direct it. So she moves to LA, she works with HBO for 5 months, builds this entire world, does the casting, whole 9 yards. And then she gets told she's too young to do this project, they're not moving forward with it, and she gets let go. Then, a year later, she walks out of her apartment and sees the Euphoria billboard that she said was an exact copy of her work. And she said she changed her entire visual style because people had started associating it with a show that was all her, but had someone else's name on it. And according to several publications, this is not an isolated incident. On the show The Idol, director Amy Seimetz completed roughly 80% of the series before being pushed out, reportedly because it had too much of a female perspective. Now pair this with Euphoria's Season 3 arc for Cassie, where the character, whose voice never sounds like it belongs to her and is always performing for whoever might be watching, is that she becomes a certain type of content creator. So Cassie was designed to sound like she needs to be received in a show that was designed by someone who has been said to make a career out of taking women's work and erasing their names from it. The performance from this cast is excellent, and Zendaya more than earned those Emmys. But the quality of the performance isn't the only thing that matters. We also have to take into consideration who the performance is in service of. And you can hear whose vision is driving a project just by listening carefully to what the voices are being asked to do. Petra Collins built a world out of what it sounds like to be a girl from the inside. And Cassie Howard sounds like what happens when a man decides he already knows.